Maya stared at the glowing screen, her chest tightening as the typing bubbles appeared, then vanished, over and over like cruel teases. She whispered, "Please just say something," but the silence was deafening. Ethan's name at the top of the chat felt heavier than any silence. The minutes stretched like hours, her thumb hovering over the keyboard, afraid to send another unanswered message. She thought of the last call they had, the one cut short with, "I'll text you later." Later never came. Every second of waiting cracked something fragile inside her. Her heart pounded with panic that maybe she wasn't worth his words anymore. The night outside pressed against her window, but it was the absence of his reply that chilled her more than the cold. Her screen dimmed, her hope flickered. The bubbles returned again, then disappeared. Her soul broke in the space between what could have been said and what never was. Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling as the storm raged outside. Every lightning flash reminded her of nights she had stayed up just to match Ethan's time zone. She had sacrificed sleep, health, and sanity just to hear his voice, even if only for minutes. Her heart pounded with each vibration of her phone, but the notifications were never from him. She whispered, "Why does it hurt more to wait than to lose?" The room was silent, save for the storm's growl. The longer she waited, the louder her thoughts screamed that he might not be hers anymore. Morning arrived, but it didn't feel like morning to Maya. She had barely slept, her head heavy with dread. She dragged herself to the mirror and saw hollow eyes staring back. "This isn't love if it leaves me empty," she whispered. Yet even then she clutched her phone, praying for a message. Her reflection mocked her hope, reminding her how far gone she already was. The typing bubbles had become her only heartbeat, and without them, silence suffocated her. Maya walked into the kitchen, the stale silence echoing through every corner. She poured coffee, though her stomach churned too much to drink. Ethan's absence was everywhere, in every empty chair, every untouched mug. She remembered their video calls where laughter filled these spaces, and now the silence mocked her. She whispered, "Did you forget me, or did you choose to?" Her trembling hand spilled drops on the counter, each one sounding louder than her unspoken questions. Her phone buzzed suddenly, and Maya's heart leapt, but it was only a reminder notification. She laughed bitterly, clutching the device like a lifeline. "How did I become someone who waits for scraps?" she muttered. Her chest ached as she scrolled through old messages, their emojis and promises now cruel reminders. Every word from Ethan felt like a lie she willingly believed. She whispered into the emptiness, "Why do I still hope?" Her tears fell silently, merging with the glow of the screen. Maya scrolled through old photos, her chest aching as Ethan's smile stared back from happier days. She whispered, "You promised distance wouldn't break us." Every memory felt like a knife twisting deeper. The warmth she once clung to now mocked her with its absence. She replayed voice notes, desperate for proof she wasn't forgotten. But even his words, once comforting, felt hollow. She clutched her phone tighter, her heart begging for signs that his love was real. Each unanswered message carved another scar she couldn't hide. Her best friend Claire tried to pull her out of the spiral, saying, "You can't keep waiting forever." Maya forced a smile, but felt her throat tighten. Every word of truth felt like betrayal to the love she still defended. She muttered, "You don't understand what we've built." Claire's silence said otherwise. Maya knew she was clinging to a rope already frayed, but letting go felt like death. She wanted Ethan's absence explained, not erased, so she could still believe in them. The night stretched endlessly as Maya replayed Ethan's last video call in her mind. His tired smile, his half-hearted words, all stitched together like fragile threads of hope. She whispered, "I stayed because I believed you would too." Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry again. Instead, she lay awake, imagining his life miles away, filled with laughter she wasn't part of. Her heart screamed for proof that she wasn't just a memory fading in his world. Maya's mother's voice carried weight at dinner. "You're wasting yourself on someone who isn't here." The words stung like salt on open wounds. She muttered back, "It's my choice," though her voice cracked. Her father remained silent, his disapproval louder than words. Family pressure pressed against her chest like an anchor, making her love feel foolish. She stabbed at her food, unable to swallow, her mind screaming Ethan's name. Their doubts only fed her fear that they might be right. Later that night, Maya sat alone in the living room, the TV flickering without sound. Her heart begged for Ethan to call, to break the silence that drowned her. She whispered into the void, "Why am I the only one fighting for this?" Her chest ached as she scrolled through their old texts, rereading promises that now felt like ghosts. Loneliness swallowed her whole, yet she refused to turn off the phone. Hope, fragile and foolish, was the only thing keeping her breathing. Maya's chest tightened when Ethan ignored another call. She whispered, "Why can't you just pick up?" The ringing had become a wall between them. Hours passed, and her screen stayed silent. Her thoughts twisted into suspicion. Was he with someone else? Every unanswered attempt deepened the ache. She felt foolish, pacing her room, begging for proof she wasn't invisible. Even the sound of the storm outside couldn't drown the silence he left. She pressed her forehead against the glass, praying for a sign he still cared. At work, Maya could barely focus. Her screen blurred as she typed, her phone face up beside the keyboard. Every vibration sent her heart racing, only to be crushed by disappointment. Claire leaned in and said softly, "He's slipping away, Maya." She forced a smile, hiding the truth clawing inside her. Her stomach knotted with dread, imagining Ethan laughing with someone else. She wondered if loyalty was making her blind. She whispered to herself, "Love shouldn't feel like chasing shadows." That evening, Maya noticed Ethan's social media update. He was tagged at a party. Her chest collapsed as she stared at the photo, his smile wide, surrounded by strangers. She muttered, "You had time for them, not me." The betrayal felt louder than silence. She threw her phone onto the bed, but quickly picked it up again, scrolling obsessively. Every detail felt like proof she had been replaced. Her breath shook as jealousy tangled with heartbreak. Her heart screamed questions, her voice couldn't. Her father noticed her red eyes and asked, "Are you all right?" Maya shook her head, whispering, "I don't know anymore." His silence was heavy, his gaze full of unspoken truth. She wanted to defend Ethan, but the words stuck in her throat. The weight of her family's doubts wrapped around her, suffocating her fragile hope. Even her own voice no longer believed her excuses. She sat at the table, trembling, wondering how much more she could break before there was nothing left. Late at night, Maya scrolled back to Ethan's old promises. "I'll always be here. We're stronger than distance." Her chest burned as she whispered, "Were you lying? Or did you change?" The words blurred through her tears. She pressed the phone to her heart, desperate to feel his presence. The silence around her screamed louder than any argument. She realized she was clinging to memories while he was building new ones without her. The distance wasn't just miles anymore. It was oceans of truth she couldn't deny. Maya's hands shook when Claire sent her a screenshot. Ethan was tagged in another photo, this time with a girl leaning close, her smile too familiar. Maya whispered, "Who is she?" But her chest already knew the answer. Her stomach twisted as the caption read, "Best night with my favorite people." The truth burned through her like fire. She wanted to deny it, to believe there was an explanation, but the silence between them screamed louder than excuses. Her faith cracked under the weight of a stranger's grin. She confronted Ethan through text, typing furiously, "Who is she?" The typing bubbles appeared, then vanished, leaving her gasping for air. Minutes dragged, her screen cold in her hand. Finally his reply came, "She's just a friend." The lie was thin, fragile, and it sliced her deeper than the truth could. She whispered to herself, "Friends don't look at each other like that." Rage mingled with heartbreak, every ounce of trust unraveling in seconds. The words she once craved now felt like poison. Claire's voice was steady but heavy when she said, "You deserve better than excuses." Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, but the proof was already in her heart. She whispered, "I can't let go, not yet." Claire shook her head, eyes full of pity. Maya felt the divide between holding on to love and facing the truth. The words stung more because they were true. Her loyalty felt like chains now, dragging her down as everyone else begged her to rise. At home, Maya sat at the dinner table with her parents. Her mother's voice cut through the silence. "He's not the man you think he is." Maya's father gave a small nod, his eyes firm. Maya muttered, "I love him," but the words sounded weak even to herself. The air felt heavy, their judgment pressing harder than the walls around her. She pushed her plate away, appetite gone. She realized love had become something she had to defend instead of something that held her. That night, Maya sat on the floor of her room, scrolling through every photo, every promise, every memory. She whispered, "I gave up everything for you." The realization hit like a blade. He had been living another life while she was building her world around him. Her chest heaved with sobs she couldn't hold back anymore. For the first time, she felt betrayal not as silence but as a truth carved into her soul. The distance wasn't miles anymore. It was deception. Maya's fingers trembled violently as she pressed the call button, her breath uneven, chest burning with a mix of dread and desperation. The ring felt endless, until Ethan's voice finally answered, casual, detached, as if she were a stranger. Her throat tightened as she choked out, "Why are you doing this to me?" Her cry cracked, breaking through the silence like glass shattering. He said nothing at first, the weight of his stillness cutting sharper than any insult. Then, with a sigh, his words slid like knives. "You're too much, Maya." Her stomach dropped, her heart twisting painfully. Each syllable tore her into pieces. Rage mixed with despair, her scream exploding, "I gave you everything." The walls of her room absorbed her anguish, echoing her broken voice back at her. The distance between them, though just a call away, stretched like an ocean impossible to cross. She felt the weight of love turning into punishment, and all she wanted was proof she had mattered. The argument erupted like a storm breaking loose. Maya's voice rose with trembling rage. Was she worth destroying me? Her chest heaved, her words raw, stripped of all restraint. Ethan's tone came back cold, sharp, dismissive. "Stop imagining things." His words rang hollow, as if rehearsed, designed only to push her away. Maya pressed her forehead into her knees, the phone nearly slipping from her sweaty hands. Sobs ripped through her, heavy and suffocating. "I was never enough for you, was I?" she whispered through gasps, knowing he wouldn't answer. The silence that followed drowned her, thicker than noise, heavier than thunder. Her body shook, and the room spun, as if collapsing around her. She realized in that breath that he wasn't fighting for her, only fighting against her. Their love had become a battlefield, one-sided and brutal, and she was the only soldier bleeding while he stood behind walls of indifference. Her voice broke into a fragile whisper, her question trembling in the air. "Do you even love me anymore?" The silence stretched, every second burning into her. Then Ethan's reply cut through, flat and merciless. "I don't know what I feel." The words slammed into her chest like thunder, final and cruel, draining the air from her lungs. She gasped, hand clutching her chest as if to hold the pieces of her heart together. Memories rushed in, his promises, the laughter in late-night calls, the sacrifices she made just to hold them. All of it collapsed into ash in that instant. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "You killed us with silence." On the other end, his breathing was steady, detached, almost mechanical, while hers came in jagged sobs. She realized their call wasn't just a conversation anymore. It was a burial. Every promise she clung to was being lowered into a grave she hadn't chosen. Her voice rose again, no longer rage but raw pleading. "Please, Ethan, just tell me it wasn't all a lie," she begged, her words dissolving into sobs. On the other end, his voice returned, calm, detached, devastating. "I can't do this anymore." The finality struck like a hammer blow, collapsing every fragile defense she had built. Maya slid down against the wall, her back scraping the plaster, tears pouring freely, soaking her sweater. She cried into the receiver, "Don't leave me like this." But then, the sound came. The hollow click of disconnection. The silence afterward was unbearable, louder than any scream. Her phone slipped in her grip, dangling lifelessly as her body convulsed with sobs. She pressed her sleeve to her face, her cries muffled against the fabric, but nothing could silence the truth. In that moment, she knew her world had split in two, and the part that believed in him was dead. Maya froze in place, her body numb, as the call ended. Her phone slipped from her hand, landing face down on the carpet with a soft final thud. The quiet ring of disconnection echoed in her mind, relentless, cruel. She whispered into the emptiness, "That was the end, wasn't it?" Her voice broke, barely audible. The room felt colder, hollow, as if his absence had swallowed everything, even the air she breathed. Her chest convulsed, her gasps sharp and painful. "I gave you my soul," she sobbed, her words breaking apart under the weight of despair. The tears fell uncontrollably, soaking into her clothes, into the floor, into the silence that now defined her. For the first time, she understood he had been gone long before this night. She had just been too desperate to see it. All she had left was the raw sound of her own breaking, echoing like a wound that would never close. The morning light crept into Maya's room, soft and indifferent, spilling across her tangled sheets. Her phone lay on the floor, dark and silent, as if mocking her desperation from the night before. She whispered, "It's over," her voice trembling with both grief and relief. Saying it out loud was like touching a bruise, painful, but proof she was still alive. She pulled the curtains open, forcing daylight into a space that had become a tomb for waiting. The storm outside had cleared, but the quiet inside her chest carried more weight. She realized she had been chained to an idea, a version of Ethan that no longer existed. She pressed her forehead against the window, feeling the cool glass sting her skin. Her tears didn't fall as freely as before. They lingered, heavy, but fewer, as if her body had finally grown tired of begging. She thought, maybe this was what the beginning of healing felt like. Not joy, not peace, but emptiness that carried the faintest trace of freedom. The cafe was warm, filled with the clinking of cups and low hum of strangers' conversations. Maya sat across from Claire, her coffee untouched, fingers wrapped around the cup for comfort more than thirst. Claire leaned forward, her voice gentle but unyielding. "You can't rebuild if you keep looking back?" Maya swallowed hard, her throat tightening with unshed tears. She whispered, "I don't know how to stop." Claire reached across the table, placing her hand over Maya's trembling one. The warmth of her touch was grounding, a lifeline in the chaos. For the first time in days, Maya let the tears fall without shame. She realized that pain didn't mean weakness, it meant she had loved fiercely. Claire's presence didn't erase the heartbreak, but it dulled the edges of the blade cutting through her. In that small cafe, surrounded by strangers who had no idea of her battle, Maya felt the faintest whisper of something she hadn't felt in weeks: safety. Back home, Maya opened the cardboard box she had hidden under her bed. It was filled with Ethan's letters, photos, and tokens of a love she once thought eternal. She picked up a photo of the two of them, his smile wide, hers radiant with trust. Her chest tightened, the weight of memory pressing harder than ever. "I can't carry this anymore," she whispered, her voice breaking. Slowly, with trembling hands, she stacked the photos in a pile, setting them aside one by one. Each piece felt like tearing away a piece of her heart, yet also like shedding chains. Her tears fell silently onto the paper, blurring inked words that once promised forever. She realized these weren't sacred relics anymore, but reminders of a love that no longer existed. With every photo she set down, the air in the room felt lighter, as though space was being cleared for something new. For the first time she imagined a life not defined by him. At dinner, the clatter of silverware was softer than usual. Her parents exchanged quiet glances, their judgment tempered into concern. Her mother finally asked, voice hesitant, "Are you all right?" Maya looked up, her eyes red but steady. She answered, "I will be," the words trembling yet resolute. Her father gave a small nod, the tension in his jaw easing. Their silence didn't feel like condemnation anymore. It felt like quiet support. She realized they hadn't wanted to crush her, only to shield her from pain she hadn't been ready to face. The meal passed slowly, but without the weight of unspoken battles. For the first time in months, Maya felt less alone at that table. The food tasted of ash, yet the moment held a warmth she hadn't noticed in years. It wasn't forgiveness or healing, but it was something, a fragile bridge between her brokenness and their love. Later that night, Maya stepped onto her balcony, wrapping a blanket tightly around her shoulders. The city lights flickered in the distance, a living constellation reminding her the world was still vast, still moving. She placed her phone beside her, screen dark, for once not reaching for it. She whispered, "I'll survive this," the words small but steady. The cool night air filled her lungs, each breath carving space where grief had lived. Her tears came again, but softer now, falling like rain that nourishes instead of destroys. She realized healing wouldn't be a sudden sunrise, but a series of tiny lights appearing in the dark. She leaned back in her chair, watching the horizon where night surrendered to the faintest line of dawn. For the first time she believed that even broken things could find their way back to life. The city glimmered faintly as twilight settled, streets buzzing with strangers who carried no knowledge of her grief. Maya's steps were slow, her body heavy, as if each movement required a will she barely had. She whispered, "I'm still here," the sound fragile but defiant against the noise of car horns and laughter. For so long, she had moved through the world as if underwater, drowning in silence and unanswered questions. Now, though the ache clung stubbornly to her, it no longer smothered her. Every shop light, every neon glow felt like proof that life had kept going without waiting for her. She realized she could too. Her eyes lifted toward a sky bruised with purple and orange, a horizon that did not promise healing, but did promise tomorrow. And maybe tomorrow, she thought, was enough to keep walking. Later that night, Maya sat at her desk with Ethan's last letter in her trembling hands. The paper was worn, softened by time, every fold a reminder of nights spent clutching it for answers. She traced the words with her finger, whispering lines she had memorized but no longer believed. "This doesn't own me anymore," she said, voice steadier than she expected. Folding the letter carefully, she placed it in the drawer and slid it shut. The soft thud of wood echoed like a door closing inside her. For the first time she didn't feel the urge to reopen it, didn't crave its hollow comfort. The silence that followed was not suffocating but strangely liberating. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling, her lungs filling with air that felt clean for the first time in months. The letter had once defined her. Now, it was only paper. The park carried the fragrance of autumn leaves, their crunch beneath her shoes grounding her in the present. Claire walked beside her, their silence comfortable, their steps aligned. After a while, Claire spoke softly, "You're stronger than you think." Maya turned, a small hesitant smile rising through the heaviness in her chest. "Maybe one day I'll believe that," she whispered, her voice trailing into the golden haze. The late afternoon sun painted everything in amber, softening even the sharp edges of her pain. She realized strength wasn't the absence of breaking, it was the quiet persistence after the breaking. For weeks, she had been defined by waiting and silence, but now she was simply walking, side by side with someone who saw her not as broken but as whole. In that ordinary moment, she discovered that healing could begin not with fireworks but with steady footsteps in fading light. That evening, Maya curled into the corner of her window seat, with her notebook open on her lap. She had filled pages before with Ethan's name, with apologies she never sent, with questions that were never answered. Tonight, her hand shook as she wrote something different. "You are worth more than waiting." The words looked uneven, the ink blotched from the pressure of her pen, but they felt truer than anything she had written in months. She whispered them aloud, letting them echo in the quiet room. For once, the voice she believed wasn't his but her own. Tears welled up, not from heartbreak, but from the strange relief of speaking truth to herself. She kept writing, her sentences imperfect but alive, no longer begging, but reclaiming. She realized she wasn't writing for Ethan anymore. She was writing for the version of herself who had been silenced for too long. The first light of dawn painted the horizon in rose and gold, spilling across Maya's balcony like a promise of something unspoken. She sat wrapped in a blanket, her phone lying silent beside her. For so long, that silence had been unbearable, each unlit screen a wound. Now, it was different. It was hers. She whispered, and that was the last time his name ever lit up my screen. The words cut deep, but carried a strange sweetness, as if a chain had broken. The ache in her chest remained, but it no longer consumed her. The morning air was cool, filling her lungs with life she thought she had lost. She closed her eyes, letting the sunlight touch her face, breathing deeply. She wasn't healed, not fully. But she was alive, and her story had not ended in silence. It had only begun again. For the first time, she believed that was enough.